1. This happened here in Norway 2018, October 4th. Since then, the experience has been a fun story I've told some of my friends. Maybe someone here has an explanation for what happened. I was going for a run with my dog. It wasn't too late, maybe 6 or 7 p.m. But it had already gotten dark. That wasn't a problem, as the nearby forest path was lit by lampposts every few meters or so. It felt amazing. I had started talking to a girl at the time who made me feel on top of the world. It was out of character for me to be that giddy with excitement. It's the only thing that struck me as different about the day. I was listening to music and practically dancing as I jogged. My dog was happily following behind. I only remember passing a couple of other joggers. It struck me as a bit odd, as there'd usually be more people out at that time. We jogged for a pretty long while, and everything was great until something hit me. A sudden, pungent smell bombarded my senses. To emphasize, my nose is usually stuffed, and my sense of smell not great. But this was unmistakable and concentrated. It was sweet and inviting, not too sweet, almost floral, but it had a slight aftersmell, something a bit sour and off. It was so inviting and unfamiliar that I got caught up just standing there smelling, until I thought of my dog. I turned to look at him, but it took me a moment to process what I was seeing under the lamplight. He was surrounded by fog. We were surrounded by fog. There was no fog earlier, not a hint of it. I was expecting him to be standing to the other side of the path, catching up on the dog Twitter feed, but no. He was standing dead center of the path, smelling the air. I had a surge of dread run through me. I could feel the hairs on my neck stand on end. Logically, it was just fog and a smell, but my body filled with adrenaline. Instead of challenging that feeling, I called out to my dog. He was focused on the smell but didn't hesitate. He bolted towards me, and I took it as a sign to do the same. If this was a track meet, I'd be going straight to nationals. We ran for an undefined amount of time. I took a moment to stop and gather myself. The uneasy feeling didn't leave, so I kept going, not stopping until we made it back to my grandparents. I get to our driveway, and my dog goes to a pot of water he has outside and starts to drink from it. I stand there for a moment, trying to process what had happened, but I don't get to stand there long before I notice it. The smell comes creeping back. Without thinking, I immediately go to the front door and tell my dog to come inside. My grandma fully supported that I didn't wait to find out what it was. That's it. Never smelled it since or experienced any sudden fog. It'd be a lot of coincidences and my mind playing tricks on me, but having my dog also react with me makes me doubt that. 2. When I was 10, my parents decided to move us into an old funeral home. Now, in this house for the 5 years I lived in it, I've had many experiences and unexplainable things happen. However, I'm only going to list some that really stuck with me. When we first moved into the house, the new owners kept only one item from back when it was a funeral home, and it was the organ. Now, this organ was huge and very old. I don't know if it had been there the whole 60 years it was a funeral home, but I do know it had to be in there for a long time. I remember my father saying we were never to touch it. Being the destructive children we were, I could understand, so we never did. However, it did. Let me explain. It started one night, early in the daytime. The eerie sound of it being played. The sound of the organ was just hauntingly beautiful. Being a child, of course, I'm thinking my brothers are pulling a prank and probably going to get in trouble. However, after the first night, it continued. So one night, me and my sister had to catch our brothers in the act, as they swore they weren't playing on it. So when it played again, we went downstairs ready to bust them, so to speak, only to find once the music stopped, no one was there. Now, the funeral home was mostly renovated into an actual house. Mostly the downstairs, because that used to be where the grieving family said their last goodbyes to their loved ones. They really tried to erase any history of it ever being one, except the basement. Now, the basement used to be the place where they prepared the dead bodies. Let me be clear, they didn't leave the equipment or table. This isn't haunting in Connecticut. However, they didn't really try to change up the basement at all. It was a dark tunnel-like basement, with it starting at the entrance used to be an office area to the actual house. It was down a slope, like a downward hill from the front to the back. It was creepy, to say the least. So I never really went in there. My parents used it as storage. One day my dad asked me to go down there to grab something, can't remember what, but it was important at the time. So I went down there, flashlight in hand, 'cause only one light, and went through the boxes. As I was looking, I felt this feeling almost as if I was being watched. I brushed it off, of course, and continued until the temperature dropped. All of a sudden, on a hot July day, it felt breezy. My hair stood up on ends, then I heard it. An unnatural sound. No words to be made out, just a gaggle-like sound. In my ear. I'll tell you, I spun so fast, only to see nothing. I ran up the ramp-like pavement to the used-to-be store-like front. Refused to go back down there. Now I can say the worst part of living there was nighttime, 'cause the nightmares. Mostly every night. I wouldn't remember all of them, just know I would wake up screaming and scared to go back to sleep. One time I did remember. Well, I remember the voice. Dead asleep to be woken up by a loud voice screaming, "Wake up!" Looked around my room to no one there. My father would say it's just night terrors. To this day in my heart I know it wasn't just a dream. Now mind you, this is just a few experiences. This house made me believe in the paranormal. It made me believe that there are some things in this world that just can't be explained. I don't know if the house is still there, but I do wonder and hope that the lost souls in that house found peace. 3. I'm posting here because maybe someone understands, or have had similar experiences. I knew something was in my apartment since I moved in. A few days, maybe a week after I moved in, I saw a figure standing in front of me when I randomly woke up at 5 a.m. It was just staring at me and my son as we slept in front of the couch. I was spooked, but I didn't think much about it. I've seen spirits my entire life. Maybe it was a curious spirit wondering who moved in. Things were weird, but more normal than they are now. The most that would happen was the occasional shadow of a person walking behind my couch, hearing things move with no explanation, but recently, things have gone wild. Maybe a couple of weeks ago, my fiancé and son were asleep on the couch. I decided to go to bed in my room. I was already a bit anxious because my mom just finished talking to me about the panic attack she had. I tried shaking it off, and as I closed my eyes, I saw what looked like 5 or 6 shadow people staring at me. Whatever, you see weird shit when you close your eyes sometimes. I opened my eyes, and standing at the door was this monster. It wasn't an animal, but it sure wasn't human. Standing on 2 skinny legs, wide body almost hunched, 2 long arms that reached the floor. I was oddly calm, but I almost immediately got disassociated. The best way to describe the feeling was I'm a scared little girl in her room. My room was my room, but everything was different. It felt like I was living in a memory that wasn't my own. I started panicking. I immediately called my friend and started hyperventilating. He's trying to calm me down as I sit on my balcony terrified. My 1-year-old wakes up screaming. Needless to say, I didn't sleep until the sunrise. Recently, things have been worse. It started off me getting sick randomly. Just waves of unexplained nausea, which I brushed off as stress. Then the dry heaving started. I have health anxiety, so I went to the ER thinking something was wrong. They found nothing. The nausea got worse. Then I started getting almost delusional. I'm going through disassociation, I'm foggy-brained, I haven't been myself in forever. Almost like clockwork, I start dry heaving around 3 or 4 a.m. every night. My moods are irrational, and I'm going through bouts of rage. When I had the sudden realization that maybe this beast is messing with my health, it started to come out again. Before this, I seriously thought that maybe it was me. I didn't know something paranormal could cause what felt like psychological warfare. Remotes started going missing and showing up in painfully obvious spots. When I'm holding my son, he's staring into my empty dining room, reaching his arms out. I'm feeling worse. On a particularly bad night, I was dry heaving, disoriented, and on the verge of a panic attack. My anxiety medication was moved from the spot it never leaves. Beast hid it from me. I didn't find it for days later. I'm seeing shadows of people in my apartment, smelling random things that aren't there. Boxes and random things have been falling. A book moved right in front of me. I hear talking when everyone else is asleep. Last night I saw the beast again, a shadow man staring at me. I looked away from the corner of my eye. I saw it again, but closer. Words can't express the toll this has taken on me, and I want to move. I can't deal with this. Nothing keeps it at bay anymore. I was scratched by it, and no one has taken me seriously. 4. This is one my dad told me. Back in the 1980s, he had just joined the police service in my country, and the first place he got posted was a government-rented building used by one of the ministries. A little context. Back then, it was not common for most government buildings to have a police post in them, since there were not that many private security firms that were in a position to guard government buildings. This particular building, known as the Salvatore Building, was an old office building that the government rented. I can't remember which ministry used it. And it was just about 30 or 40 years old when my dad got there. My dad said while he was there, a lot of strange things would happen. Hearing voices, seeing someone out of the corner of your eye, but nothing he would call creepy. Another thing about my dad is he was a huge skeptic when it came to ghosts and whatnot. He didn't really believe in that sort of thing, so he just believed it was his mind playing tricks. Seeing he worked at night and the building was basically empty. But one night, my dad was making his usual rounds like he normally did. It wasn't a particularly tall building, maybe about 5 or 6 stories tall, so it was more or less easy to patrol. Well, when he headed to the 3rd floor, he began to hear voices coming from one of the offices. This was in the middle of the night. No workers were in the building, save for a handful of policemen, and he didn't recognize any of the voices he was hearing. Thinking someone was in the building, he pulled his revolver and got to the open door where the voices were coming from, but when he did, he saw one of the other policemen who was there that night reading a newspaper. When the other officer saw my dad, he asked him what was going on. My dad told him what he had heard, but the other officer hadn't heard anything. My dad just brushed it off, thinking he was nervous, because he was still new, and he left to continue his patrol. On his way back down, Dad was passing the same room from earlier, when the officer from before came out with his revolver and asked my dad what was going on and if he was all right. Apparently, the other officer had heard something like a struggle or a fight taking place outside his door, and thought my dad was in trouble. But my dad didn't hear anything at all, and despite making a sweep, they didn't find anyone else there. My dad was there for a few more years before being transferred. He said in that time other strange things took place, and they were experienced by other officers too. But eventually the ministry moved out and the building was closed and knocked down. He was still a skeptic up until he died, but he said after his time in Salvatore, he wasn't as critical of people who said they'd seen a ghost. Five. So this is a little weird. We moved into this new place a little over 3 months ago. When we first toured it, it had such happy vibes, and just felt so warm and cozy. But randomly things started getting a little unnerving at times. I used to do a lot of housework at night after my husband and daughter went to bed, so I could spend more time with them during the day. It was my relaxation time, honestly, but suddenly it started feeling just off when I was in that part of the house at night by myself. I started constantly feeling like I was being watched or something was behind me when I would wash the dishes. I no longer do my chores at night or leave my bedroom because it feels so creepy in there. My daughter also keeps occasionally looking at corners of our room and just stares or occasionally smiles at whatever she's looking at. Scares the hell out of me. I also randomly experienced sleep paralysis in the midst of all this for the second time ever in my life. But I could have sworn it was someone or something holding me down in bed. I tried to scream for my husband, but I couldn't do anything. I'm not sure if I was just dreaming that or what. The really strange thing is this. My baby has this winter hat that I cannot remember how it ended up in the living room to begin with. But one day it was in the middle of her huge playpen. I was in a hurry to put her down and to let my dogs out, so I just grabbed it and threw it by her toy box that's in the small built-in alongside of her playpen. Well, every single day for the past month or two, that hat has been right back in the same place every single morning. At first, I just thought nothing of it and would toss it and move on because I assumed my cats were doing it in the night. I've never seen them have any interest in something like a hat, and I've never seen them be able to get to where her toys are, so it was a bit strange. But it was the only explanation I had. I was coming to my husband as we were leaving early in the morning. That damn hat was there again a few days ago. Well, he just grabbed it quickly and shoved it into this vet box toy that my daughter has, as we were walking out, and said there's no way the cats will get it now. I completely forgot about this until yesterday morning. When I walked out into the living room, there was the freaking hat in the exact same spot it's always in the center of her playpen. I was immediately spooked because the toy it was in had a small door on it. There's an opening above, so maybe a cat could pull it from there, but the door was wide open. This door takes some force to open. My baby can't even open it, so I know my cats wouldn't be able to. I'm so weirded out because it won't stop. It keeps being put in the exact same spot. I put the hat into my daughter's shape sorter toy, just to see what happens. If it ends up back in the playpen, I'm never going to be able to sleep again. Does this sound paranormal, or does anyone have any potential explanations? I know for a fact my husband isn't pranking me, so I just don't know what is going on. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Paranormal Stories, episode 332. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, I know I say this every video, but please press the like button or the dislike button and or leave a comment and share the video around. I know every YouTuber is asking you to do that because basically it's marketing. We've got to promote these videos as much as we can ourselves, so that's what we do. Frustrating, but necessary. Okay, let's see. Okay, I don't think there's any other business or shout-outs, so let's move right along. Oh, wait, no, there is a birthday shout-out. Almost slipped my mind. Yes, I do. I remember I had one for Friday. And today's birthday shout-out goes to Craftsman Cottage Chick. I'm just going to call you Jamie, if that's all right. It makes it easier when I'm doing the singing part. You've been a subscriber for a while, Jamie, and you're definitely one of the most enthusiastic of my supporters, and I appreciate everything you do for me. I truly do. And I hope today is a very special birthday for you. And as always, if you have to work, and well, that sucks if you have to work your birthday, but I hope you do take time soon, at the weekend or as soon as you can, to celebrate your birthday. Jamie's 57 today. I think I'm allowed to say that. It was in the email. So a very happy 57th birthday to you. Lots of cake, lots of ice cream, and if you have pets, boop the pets, please. That's very important. They feel the love as well. And before I go, I'd like to sing Happy Birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jamie. Happy birthday to you. Alrighty. Have a great one, Jamie. Right. Let's see. I think we'll have Hellfreezer's question of the day, and then we'll head off. So, today's question is, would you want to be the ghost haunting the fancy house, the mansion, whatever? Speaking personally, I don't think that'd be very fun, because you spend eternity watching other people living their lives, and that would get very boring and very awkward very quickly. But there might be an upside to it that I haven't thought of, and I look forward to seeing your opinions on it in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.